At the heart of the major intellectual transformations of the 18th century, Immanuel Kant emerged as one of the pillars of modern philosophy, not only because of the depth of his theses, but also because of his courage in redefining the relationship between reason and knowledge. His philosophical project was not merely an attempt to overcome the dispute between rationalists and empiricists. It was an epistemological revolution by all measures. Through it, he sought to determine what human reason can know and what lies beyond its capacity for comprehension. Kant did not pose the question, "What can I know?" out of theoretical curiosity, but out of the necessity to establish a coherent human knowledge that is not deceived by illusion nor oversteps its limits. He realized that reason, despite its analytical power, is not absolute, and that it operates within specific conditions and limits imposed by its internal structure and the nature of the sensory experience it interacts with. In this context, his famous book, Critique of Pure Reason, came to put an end to the excessive claims about reason's ability to perceive everything and to demonstrate that there is an essential difference between the phenomena we perceive through the senses and reason and the thing in itself, which remains beyond the scope of our knowledge. This distinction was not just a philosophical detail. It was the foundation for a new understanding of the nature of truth and the limits of human epistemological ambition. In this article, we will delve into the depths of the Kantian project, exploring his vision of knowledge, his analysis of reason, and his delineation of what we can perceive and what we must be humble before. We will also discuss how this vision influenced the course of philosophical thought and opened the door to new questions about the mind, perception, consciousness, and the limits that cannot be transcended. Phenomena and the thing in itself. The limits of perception and Kant's critical project. In a philosophical context torn between two contradictory tendencies, rationalism, which made reason the key to all truth, and empiricism, which made sensory experience the sole source of knowledge. Immanuel Kant arrived to present a critical project seeking to overcome this divide and redraw the boundaries of human knowledge. His concern was not only abstract, but also existential. How do we know? What do we know? And what can we not know? At the heart of this project lies an essential distinction between what Kant calls the phenomenon and the thing in itself. The phenomenon is everything that takes shape in our consciousness through experience and is subject to the a priori forms of time, space, and causality, rules derived not from the world, but from the structure of reason itself. As for the thing in itself, it is that which exists independently of our perception and which we cannot fully grasp because it lies outside the realm of human experience and perception. This distinction is not a technical detail, but the key to understanding Kant's view of the nature of knowledge. He asserts that reason is not content with merely receiving data, but actively participates in constructing and shaping it. This is what he calls synthetic a priori knowledge, knowledge that does not stem from experience, but organizes and shapes it. With this vision, Kant closed the door on traditional metaphysics, which sought to apprehend absolute substance, and open a new door for a humble understanding of reason. In his view, reason cannot transcend the limits of experience nor perceive what lies beyond it. Consequently, everything we know is the result of an interaction between the given data and the conceptual framework. In light of this, the very nature of truth changes. It is not absolute nor independent of our perception. Rather, it is what is formed in our consciousness according to our cognitive capacities. This opens the door to a new view of humanity, not as a being seeking to dominate the universe, but as one seeking to understand its place within it and to stand within its limits. The impact of this distinction extends beyond philosophy to science, religion, and ethics. In science, Kant reminds us that theories do not describe the world as it is, but as we perceive and organize it. In religion, it opens a space for faith as it opens a space for reason. What is not perceived is not denied, but it is not proven by reason alone. In ethics, Kant establishes a knowledge built on duty rather than outcome and makes the good will the core of every ethical action. In this framework, the limits of knowledge are not an obstacle, but an invitation to humility and responsibility. What we do not perceive does not absolve us from contemplation, and what we do perceive must be guided by justice and reason. If we contemplate the impact of this distinction on contemporary philosophy, we find that it was key to the emergence of new schools like phenomenology and hermeneutics, which seek to understand human experience from within and do not claim to reach the essence of things. Furthermore, Kant's view of reason as an active tool in constructing knowledge influenced theories of perception and intelligence, and even the development of modern cognitive sciences. We cannot conclude this section without acknowledging that Kant, with his distinction between phenomenon and thing in itself, did not merely present a theory. He offered a mirror in which we look at ourselves and our epistemological ambition. He teaches us to be aware of our capacities, but also of our limits, and to distinguish between what we know and what we think we know. Thus, Kant laid the foundation for a philosophy that combines reason and consciousness, knowledge and responsibility, perception and humility. It is a call for understanding, not control, for contemplation, not domination, for humility, not epistemological arrogance. Critique of Pure Reason, a project to delineate the domain of knowledge. When Immanuel Kant published his famous critique of pure reason, he was not merely presenting a theory of knowledge. He was launching a radical philosophical project seeking to understand human reason and define its capabilities and limits. He does not ask, what do we know, but how do we know? And what are the conditions of this knowledge? And what can we not know? In this book, Kant explores what he calls synthetic a priori knowledge, a type of knowledge that does not stem from experience, but organizes and shapes it. Reason is not content with receiving data. It contributes to constructing it through fixed cognitive frameworks like time, space, and causality. Thus, all empirical knowledge is the result of an interaction between sensory data and the mental framework. Here, the critical dimension of Kant's project appears. He does not seek to prove absolute knowledge nor to deny knowledge, but to define its domain and conditions. He asserts that true science must be confined to what can be verified empirically and must avoid delving into what can neither be proven nor denied. In doing so, he set limits for metaphysics and opened the door to a more balanced and humble epistemological theory. Synthetic a priori knowledge, transcending rationalism and empiricism. In the course of philosophical thinking before Kant, knowledge was divided into two main types: a priori knowledge stemming from reason and independent of experience, as in mathematics and logic, and a posteriori knowledge coming from sensory experience, as in the natural sciences. The dispute between rationalists and empiricists centered on which type was primary and which could establish certain knowledge. Here, Kant arrives to present a third type of knowledge, which he calls synthetic a priori knowledge. It is knowledge that does not come from experience, but adds something new to knowledge, and is not merely an analysis of what already exists. In this, Kant combined the a priori and the synthetic and transcended both schools. For example, our knowledge that every event has a cause is knowledge that does not stem from specific experience, but it organizes every experience we undergo. It is a priori because it precedes experience, and synthetic because it adds new meaning to what we perceive. This type of knowledge forms the basis of science and explains how we construct theories that are general and certain without being merely a collection of sensory data. Thus, Kant redefined reason. It is not a passive recipient nor an absolute producer, but a partner in building knowledge, operating according to fixed frameworks that regulate how we perceive the world. These frameworks are not the result of experience. They are the conditions for the possibility of experience itself. Between Descartes and Hume, how Kant transcended the two poles. To appreciate the depth of Kant's concept of synthetic a priori knowledge, we must compare it to what came before, particularly in two prominent philosophical schools: rationalism, represented by René Descartes, and empiricism, represented by David Hume. Descartes believed that reason alone was capable of producing certain knowledge, and that doubt was a path to absolute truth. In his famous statement, "I think, therefore I am," he makes subjective consciousness the starting point for all knowledge. Thus, he established a priori knowledge stemming from reason, but it remained in the realm of analysis and did not add anything new to the given data. Hume, on the other hand, went in the opposite direction and rejected any knowledge not derived from experience. He believed that reason lacks legislative power and that everything we know is the result of repetition and habit, not fixed rational rules. In his critique of the concept of causality, he asserts that we do not perceive the cause, but we observe a sequence of events and build an expectation upon it, not knowledge. Here, Kant arrives to offer a profound philosophical settlement. He acknowledges that experience is necessary to initiate knowledge, but it is not sufficient. At the same time, he acknowledges that reason possesses a priori frameworks that organize this experience and add meaning and structure to it. Thus, he combined reason and sensation and established a knowledge that is both a priori and synthetic. Contemporary applications, from philosophy to science, language, and intelligence. The concept of synthetic a priori knowledge did not remain confined to philosophy books. It quietly infiltrated multiple scientific and theoretical fields, influencing our way of thinking about science, language, and even the machines we build to think like us. In theoretical physics, when Einstein developed his theory of relativity, he was reshaping the concepts of time and space, the very two frameworks Kant considered conditions for our perception. Here, we can see how contemporary scientific thought did not discard Kant but build upon him, treating time and space not as absolute truths, but as a framework for experience that is subject to change and expansion. In newer theories like quantum mechanics and string theory, we again face the limits of human perception and revisit questions Kant raised. Do we perceive the universe as it is, or as our mind shapes it? Can science transcend phenomena to the essence of things? In the philosophy of language in the 20th century, Ludwig Wittgenstein presented a theory of language that aligns, in spirit, with the Kantian project. He believed that the meaning of words lies not in their reference to objects in the world, but in their use within a language game. Thus, linguistic knowledge results from usage frameworks that resemble in nature the mental frameworks Kant discussed. In artificial intelligence and cognitive science, we face a quintessentially Kantian question. How does a non-human entity perceive, and what are the frameworks that make knowledge possible for it? In designing deep learning systems, we establish an a priori structure for how information is processed, echoing Kant's idea that the mind shapes knowledge and does not merely receive it. In cognitive psychology, modern theories assume the existence of cognitive structures in the mind that organize perception and learning, which contemporary heirs of Kant, like Jean Piaget and Noam Chomsky, point to in their theories of cognitive development and innate grammatical rules. The critique of metaphysics, deconstructing illusion and reorienting thought. In classical philosophy, metaphysics was considered the pinnacle of knowledge and a field for exploring substance, existence, God, the soul, and the world as it is in itself. Philosophers from Plato to Leibniz sought to build metaphysical systems encompassing everything, explaining every phenomenon, and answering every question. But Kant, in his critical project, comes with a radically different view. He does not reject metaphysics as a field, but he wants to reorient it and define what it can address. He asks, can reason perceive what lies outside the realm of experience? Can we build knowledge about God, the soul, or the world as a whole without falling into contradiction? In the critique of pure reason, Kant presents what he calls metaphysical illusions and shows how reason, when it tries to transcend experience, falls into closed circles and generates questions that cannot be answered nor even negated. He asserts that reason, by its nature, seeks the universal, but it lacks the tools to do so in the absence of experience. Thus, Kant's critique of metaphysics is not destruction, but a deconstruction of illusion and a call to reorient reason towards what it can actually perceive and establish. He wants metaphysics to be critical and to ask about the conditions of knowledge, not about the essence of things. Conclusion after Kant. In our journey with the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, knowledge reveals itself to us not as a mere collection of information, nor as reason's authority over the world, but as an interactive act that combines the given and the framework, the sensory and the rational, what we perceive and what we imagine we perceive. Kant did not just offer a theory. He offered a mirror in which we look at ourselves, review our epistemological ambition, and evaluate the path of thought. He teaches us that strength lies not in claim, but in the awareness of limits, and that reason, despite its power, must be critical and must ask about the conditions of what it knows, not about the essence of what it cannot apprehend. Thus, Kant's project is not the end of philosophy, but the beginning of a new philosophy that combines reason and responsibility, knowledge and consciousness, and makes contemplation an ethical act and limits a space for reflection, not for negation. In a world where knowledge accelerates and information inflates, Kant's vision is a call to pause, contemplate, and ask, what do we truly know? What do we think we know? And what must we be humble before?